For those who don't know me, I'm Josh Eccles. I've been here at LabKey for quite a while now, just past 10 years. It's been really fun and exciting to see this conference, grow and expand, and new folks come and others return. It's come a long way since we kind of set up in a conference room, pretty cramped at Fred Hutch, 6 years ago or so. So thank you all for coming. It's my privilege to introduce the rest of the speakers here at the conference today. And our next speaker is Nola Klempas. She is a program manager at the Institute for Prostate Cancer Research, which is a collaboration between Fred Hutch again and UW Medicine.
Thank you, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. I'm really excited to talk about the Mpower project. That's been I think, a really successful collaboration between my group and LabKey. So the reason that I'm here today is because prostate cancer is a really huge and significant public health concern. The statistics are that approximately 1 in 6 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime. This means that today there are approximately 3 million men that are currently battling prostate cancer in the United States alone. So these are some pretty significant statistics, and we want to be able to do something to kind of help that burden. So despite the prevalence of the disease, there are actually really poor resources and information to help men make decisions about their treatment and care. So imagine that a patient has just been diagnosed with prostate cancer from their doctor. The first decision that they're going to need to make is, what's the right treatment for them? What's going to give them the best chance of beating their prostate cancer? They'll likely get a list of all of the different types of treatment options that are available. There are a couple different kinds of surgery, there's a couple different kinds of radiation, there's chemotherapy, there are all these different hormonal agents. It kind of makes you dizzy to think about all of these different options without knowing what's going to fit me the best. Today, this is kind of our best guess at what's going to be some of the consequences that a man's going to have to balance. So, for example, if a man decided to have traditional surgery and have the prostate removed, the great news is that the chance of recurrence, the chance of the cancer coming back, is relatively low, which is really encouraging. The problem with that is that you really have to weigh the consequence that you'll have a very high risk of developing urinary and bowel incontinence, sexual dysfunction, as well as just any kind of surgical complication that may come up. So those are some really, really difficult decisions to make. Alternatively, you could also go and have some hormonal therapy. The great news there is that your incontinence is relatively spared, but the problem is your chance of recurrence is really high. So when your prostate cancer comes back, it often comes back more aggressively. It's more likely to kill you. So these are some of the issues that someone is trying to navigate when they're diagnosed with prostate cancer, and the side effects that they may experience are going to battle them every single day for the rest of their life. So this is kind of the current state, is that we really have this very generic one-size-fits-all approach. So even if you're different, if you were diagnosed young, maybe you have unusually aggressive disease, you have a family history of prostate cancer, all of these things we know dramatically change how your cancer is going to respond to treatments. The best that we can do is give you the same treatment we would recommend for anybody else. And we saw a problem with that. So the researchers and clinicians in my group had this vision. We could do this better. We know that there are millions of men that are out there, each with their own unique story, their own survival, their own positive outcome. What if we could collect all of that information, all of those success stories that are out there, and use that to help men make better decisions when they're diagnosed? And that's really what we set out to do. So again, to move away from this very generic one-size-fits-all approach to something that's more personalized and more data-driven. So again, if we know that you're different, you're diagnosed young, you have aggressive disease, what we can do is look at other men that are just like you, that had a really positive response and say, guess what? This is what worked well for other men that are just like you. Why don't we recommend the same thing for you? You'll have a much better likelihood of having a good outcome. So really the driving inspiration here is that having access to better data will help men make better decisions. So this is kind of the main idea. What we set out to do is to create a centralized database capturing the stories of all of these men around the state so that anybody can walk up to an online website and fill in information like their clinical experience, the outcome that they've experienced from their care, their quality of life, the severity of their side effects, their lifestyle. Maybe they exercise a lot, maybe they eat well, maybe they have a family history of disease, and go up to this website and fill this all out. That may raise some red flags for anybody, like walking up to a public website and entering information about their very private urinary incontinence. Anybody feel a little uncomfortable about that? I would, because all of this information is actually incredibly confidential, which caused a big problem for us. Because I'm sure a lot of you in the audience are familiar with HIPAA, which is an act put in place to protect the personal health information of every single one of you. And there are obviously some very significant consequences of any breaches to this data. A lot of you may have already heard about this UCLA case, which was famous because it involved the leaking of some celebrity data. And Britney Spears was one of the people impacted. So we decided to learn from Britney and keep it quiet, okay? And develop the most highly secured and protected database that we could. And so again, taking Britney's lead, we decided to turn to LabKey because we knew that they had the expertise to be able to deliver on this highly secure protection of our data. Thanks, Britt. So when we started working with LabKey, we kind of came up with three main criteria that we felt would make a successfully secure database. And so I'll walk through each one of those today. The first was that we really wanted patient responses to the consent form to be stored securely because that would involve protected health information. So this is a mock-up of what the architecture that LabKey came up with. A patient will walk up to this website and they'll read a consent form which outlines some of the risks that they may experience from filling out this survey, and they'll enter in their name and their date of birth as a way to digitally consent to participate. And so what will happen is this information will get ported behind the Fred Hutch firewall into a high security environment, and it will be saved in a folder there, but automatically it will be linked to a secure token or a random code. So from here on out, the patient's identity is no longer their name, but it's now this code. So now the patient can go through and fill out this survey. Again, going over their treatment experience, the quality of their life, how happy they are with their treatment, whether they've experienced any side effects and to what severity, whether they have a family history of the disease, et cetera, all of these things that I've been explaining previously. But of course, we want to make sure that the responses to the survey as well are also saved securely. So again, the responses from their survey are again ported behind the Fred Hutch firewall and stored in a separate folder. So their name and date of birth is stored separately from their survey responses, and again, linked to that same secure token. So the third, up until now, we've been worried about protecting the identity of the patient, but at the same time, we want to be able to use this information. As researchers, we need to be able to link the consent form and the survey responses to be able to actually generate reports and be able to share this information broadly. So this third one is really about being able to link the consent identifiers, which is the name and date of birth, to outside records, such as the insurance claim data that Karma mentioned, or medical records or anything like that. And then again, be able to link that to the survey answers. So we're able to use the secure token to kind of connect all of these things within the private server in the Fred Hutch high security environment. So we felt really great that we've been able to design this very secure database, but it's only as successful as what we're able to do and generate with the data. So let's talk a little bit about what we hope to do with the information that we collect. So I've already kind of alluded to some of the potential patient benefits. We really imagine this as being a tool to help patients predict what treatment is going to be the best fit for them. So this is a visual that we've mocked up where we're able to say, okay, filter down to people like you. These are the kinds of side effects that people can anticipate. So even though you're different than everyone else, this is how maybe the best way for you to treat and manage your disease. But we also actually anticipate this being a really important resource for clinicians and researchers. Right now, clinicians really only have their own patients that they're able to follow and track. But wouldn't it be useful to be able to look at men across the state and see what the long-term prognoses are for a whole bunch of men, not just maybe the 100 or 200 men that they track? But also researchers can actually use information to design interventions and say, okay, we happen to see a little trend that men that exercise or eat right tend to do better. So for example, we could have a man and design an exercise intervention where people can use Fitbits to track across the state and monitor those trends and see if we're able to create a better outcome through these interventions. Or we could also do it with nutrition. The sky's the limit. So finally, we also imagine this as being a really good platform to improve public policy and advocacy for prostate cancer. We're working with the Washington State Prostate Cancer Coalition, who are an advocacy organization, and they have a lot of plans to be able to use this data to advocate for public awareness and the needs of prostate cancer patients at a statewide and a national level. So future directions. We are launching this month, maybe even this week. It may be launching right now. I don't know. We're very excited. It's happening soon. So we're so thrilled to be able to kind of see how this database is able to improve the experience of men with prostate cancer. And I just really wanted to thank Carl and Jesse because they've been an amazing team with me, and they've been a great partner. And we'll see what happens, but we're pretty excited. So I will take any questions, and thank you.
Hi. Can you talk about how patients might find the site? What channels? Is it through their providers or other resources they might already be connected with?
Yeah, so I didn't go into too much detail with it here, but I actually have a relationship with the State Cancer Registry. And so they'll actually be identifying all men that are diagnosed with prostate cancer and sending out first contact letters of all men in the registry saying, hey, we support cancer research to improve outcomes. This is an example that you could participate in. Go to this URL. And they'll go there. They'll instantly be able to sign consent and fill out the survey. The whole thing should take 10 minutes. But the exciting thing is that as soon as they sign digital consent, the cancer registry will be able to port us their curated clinical records. So that's how we can kind of start to merge all of these different aspects together, the insurance claim data, the curated clinical data, as well as their quality of life and outcome data, to really start to get a big picture of all the factors that may play a role in a successful prostate cancer outcome. Good question. Yeah.
How much did you design for testing before rollout? Because it has regulatory things, and you have also, sounds like a lot of connect backends with other insurers or other things. Did you design and spend a lot of time on the testing, or it was very light testing? How did you do the testing before you roll out?
So the testing of the actual security model.
Yeah.
So I may have to defer to my technical team to answer that question. I've been very happy to outsource that. We're once we go live, we still are going to be actually doing some more iterative testing and making sure that everything is connected. But yeah, I can't necessarily speak to the technical security background of it. If anyone wants to pipe up, they are welcome.
Without going into too many details, so we do have a series of automated tests to test the security to make sure that data can only be pushed behind the firewall and data cannot be accessed. And so kind of a combination of a series of internal testing from LabKey, which we typically do, as well as automated tests and standard operating procedures that we give to Nola's team so that when they set up the servers, they're configured appropriately. But if you want to, I can talk more offline if you're interested in specific technical details about how we wired up the APIs. I'm happy to do so.
Oh gosh, I'll do. Yeah.
I'm just curious what kind of budget you have for this. I mean, people come to me asking about registries all the time, and their budgets.
Yeah, no, so our budget has been small. We've done a lot with little. I think the way we've kind of done it is that I get excited, and so I have this the sky's the limit vision of what I want to do, and it's really cool. It is awesome. It's like a spaceship. But we weren't able to afford that at this time, so we've kind of created kind of a three-step process. And so this first phase is really like the minimum product that we can do and have it be secure. My primary concern was making it be secure and protected, and all the bells and whistles I'll get to eventually once I'm able to raise the funding for it. So I think it's been helpful for me to know where we're going and know what we can do, which is, again, more interactive, more linking of that insurance claim data and porting everything together. But the three-step process has helped me be patient in getting there with the understanding that, we are in research and we don't necessarily have an unlimited budget. So my team has been fantastic in helping me scrape together. So this initial phase, just the security model, was I think around might be 30 or 40,000. There was a what question in the back?
So I had a question regarding so you said when you import the data from the clinical record, you have a curated version. Do you do anything with the information that the patients actually provide to the system? Like how do you, I can think of this happened to me a year, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer 2 years ago, and the way I went through the treatment will be different, going back in my memory. So do you do any type of curation to the data that the patients are providing? Because I'm guessing there could be potential for, downsizing side effects or exaggerating other things.
Yeah, definitely. So we definitely wanted to include questions about the patient's self-perceived clinical experience, just almost as a fact check. But we kind of understood that we really wanted to be able to rely on the curated clinical registry data, because you're right, people do misremember. If someone asked, what I did 10 years ago, I wouldn't be able to reliably bring that back. I think you're right, there might be some potentially interesting questions and what people misremember. But I think the goal is to try and trust people's self-reported quality of life, because I think those will be the salient memories that are important, and probably weight heavily on the curated clinical records. And we'll see what, the research questions can continue to evolve, and we'll capture it all and figure out what to do with it later.
understanding, what's in it for the patients who sign up? What's your strategy for an ongoing engagement to keep them interested and
Yeah.
informed?
So in this first phase, it was so important to me to be able to give patients something back. And so in this first phase, what we're giving back is a contextualization. So if I can kind of go back to this graph, a lot of the patients that we work with, they're experiencing these side effects and they don't know if that's normal. And so we kind of imagined this community as a way of giving people an idea of how they compare to their peers and to understand that they're not alone, right? That just because they're experiencing this very uncomfortable environment or situation, that's normal and maybe it'll get better or maybe there are ways that we can manage it. So part of the education around this we want to really develop is how do you self-manage? How do other men deal with these side effects? That's definitely something that we imagine. So, I mean, it's not much, but I think the idea of being able to kind of empower men to know that they are part of a bigger community, that they're not alone, and that what they're experiencing is normal, or if it's not normal, that there are ways that they can get help to get better. That's kind of our small little carrot. But again, in my 3-step process of trying to engage men, I do imagine a multiple re-login experience where there's perhaps an online support message board where it's kind of like a digital support group, because support groups in person are great, but that's not always the right thing for everybody. And so to kind of create tools that are motivating men to continue to check their progress and to find a sense of community and find some of the needs that maybe they would like to have met. So we'll see.
So you seem to work really hard to make sure that the name, the date of birth are separated from the rest of the data. Was there any concern to the fact that identifying patients based on a combination of the information from the medical record, that could be uniquely identifying?
You mean like date of surgery or something like that?
Yeah, if you knew something about someone, you could find them based on or identify them based on those types of information.
You mean so concern about the security from the survey responses, be able to identify them?
Correct. So even if you didn't have the name, the other information could be identifying enough to find them.
So in the eyes of HIPAA, even though it doesn't have a name, dates still have the same security needs as a name. Like in the eyes of HIPAA, a date is the same level of PHI. So they're stored separately, but yes, in theory, just by looking at a date of a surgery, that could be considered enough information to track down who the individual is. So that's why we designed that model where they're saved parallel, but they both have that same security because yes, in our eyes, even though they have different information, they both have the same level of need for protection. All right, thank you, everybody.